Land Rover Discovery has always positioned itself as an all-round car, one that can take a family out on weekends and still drive you to work on Monday, and most importantly, without having to break into a bank. I mean, it's not as expensive as a Range Rover, but it still offers you what you can get from Range Rovers or even more in terms of space. Well, that might be true on paper, but is it so practically? Powered by a turbo diesel V6 engine, which is paired to a 6-speed automatic gearbox, the car makes just enough power to be felt, but nothing much to be excited about. I mean, around 240 horsepower or thereabouts. But the question is, are these cars as good as they were once? I mean, has the Land Rover family held its reputation and glory as an off-road king we all grew knowing? Rumors suggest something very different. The car has gone soft and unreliable. Is it true or just speculation? I've been known to bend the rules of men and the rules of Almighty maybe once or twice. But when I encountered across this signpost, Peleka Takataka Pale, I felt without a single doubt that I had to obey. Why is that so? When we talk about the Land Rover, back when we were growing up, I'm telling you, the name Land Rover was something so iconic. Every time we as millennials we heard of the name Land Rover, the only thing that came to our mind was the DC, or rather district commissioners. And Gen Zs cannot relate to this. And let me tell you about the DC. The DC was the second most powerful person in authority after the chief. The chief was the most powerful man. Why is that so? That's because the chief is the only man who had authority to whoop you, whoop your uncle, whoop your dad, whoop your mom, and there is nothing that could be done about it. Same to the Land Rover. The DC's Land Rover would chew terrains like no one's business, especially during the El Ninos. This car ensured that the DC was able to get to wherever he wanted to go. May it be sunny, may it be rainy, may it be muddy. The Land Rover always had to get the work done. Now, the older Land Rovers used to come with what I call a very simple system, whereby you just had to engage a diff lock, and then you would either decide to share power 50-50 to the front axle and the rear axle. But how about the modern Land Rover? Now, the modern Land Rover has come equipped with so much technological advancements. They have swapped the diff lock for what we call multi-terrain select. Now, what does multi-terrain select do? You're stuck in mud, you're stuck in gravel, you're stuck in sand. All you have to do is turn the knob to the exact condition you're at. Say for instance, I'm stuck in mud. I just switch it to mud and then I leave everything to the ECU of the vehicle. It's a one to decide which axle needs to have more power. Is it the front one? Is it the rear one? It decides. I'm stuck in sand. Which wheel's supposed to have more traction? Is it the front right? Is it the rear left? You as a driver, you're denied your power, you're denied your freedom, and you leave it entirely to the computer. And many other times you've heard of issues whereby the multi-terrain select system is starting to malfunction. When it starts to malfunction, you as a driver, you're left out to hang out dry. So yes, they have turned out to be so much better. And now, the reason as to why I've put this car over here is because nowadays, when we hear about the name four-wheel drive, the only thing that comes to our mind is a Land Cruiser. But back in the days, this was the king of off-road. So at the end of the day, we are going to decide, does this Land Rover belong here? But nevertheless, I don't think we should judge so fast. Let's give it a benefit of doubt. We are going to take this car outside there, see how it performs on road, see how it performs off-road, see exactly how it goes about handling each and everything. Then only then can we come to a conclusion and decide what's the rightful position of this vehicle. But then there are two things I'm sure that they don't belong here. Number one is Precision Automotive's ability to service and maintain this vehicle. Number two, yours truly. So yeah, let's get this done. Having driven from Nairobi to Kirinyaga and Nyeri all on tarmac, there was no challenge for this car. It handled perfectly fine. I was really impressed by the power delivery and the smooth suspension. But hey, instead of wasting much time praising it on what any other car can do, let's get into what matters the most: off-road challenge. This is silt and I'm going to drive through it. Any driver can tell you that silt is what I'd call a tricky situation. Why do I say that? Because this silt is all the loose soil that has been washed from the upper part and deposited all the way to this lower part. And now let me tell you the tricky part. It's really deep. And there's a very high probability of me getting stuck, but nevertheless, I don't care. Land Rover is meant to be an off-road vehicle, and if it's an off-road vehicle, then it's meant to tear apart the terrain. If that's not the case, then the terrain ends up tearing up. If you all remember, we had the Land Rover Discovery versus the Land Cruiser in this exact terrain. And let me tell you, our Discovery was shown dust by a 30-year-old Land Cruiser. You can imagine, this is a very modern car, 209 model, and the Land Cruiser was a 1994. And it thrashed it big time. A lot of excuses were made about the driver's error, about tires, blah, 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 blah. I call them excuses. So this is the day that we are going to do it. And nevertheless, it's Joanne. Joanne takes all risk and she does not entertain any fear. So let's get this done. In all honesty, I feel that this car is what I would call self-restricting. Why do I say that? That's because back there, you realize that there's a time where the tires were no longer spinning, yet I can assure you that I did not ease off my feet off the accelerator. I was firmly on the accelerator, but then the car itself, the ECU was trying to gauge which tire should get more traction than which one. And now eventually it ends up restricting you as the driver. So I do believe that on that challenge we had, Imran was not to blame, but also the car played a very big role, or rather a huge role, in failing Imran on that specific day. So that's the bad thing about modern cars, you know. If it was just an old Land Cruiser, all you'll have to do is engage the deflocks. After you engage the deflocks, you're able to be in control as a driver. But now with the modern technology, the computer is the one that's making all the decisions for you, limiting you so much when it comes to off-road driving. The whole idea of replacing lockers with multi-terrain select system has proved not to be the best. And that's because, in a way or the other, it's more reactive than proactive. Why is that so? That's because the tires must spin for the ECU to realize there's an overspinning tire and command the multi-select system to apply selective braking for good distribution of traction. In the process, momentum is lost. It's not really muddy, but there is a state in this trail whereby it was extremely bad. The condition was really bad that no vehicle could pass by there. So I want us to get there. And I know it's what I would call a risk, because you're not supposed to go off-road if you don't have a recovery vehicle. Back then we had quite a number of recovery vehicles, and when the car got stuck, we were able at least to maneuver around. Anyway, I'm going to first assess the situation. If it's a risk that I can take, then why not? If I term it as a necessary risk, then I'll just not do it. So yeah, here we are. So finally we're here, and this is the exact spot that the last time we could not pass through. As you can see, it's still holding water. That tells you that there is a lot of silt, and that is why it's able to hold a lot of water. But nevertheless, it has not been raining for quite some while, so I want to believe that it's what I would call a manageable terrain as of now. But now let me tell you something about the forest. The forest has way too many dangers. When you take a side on this look, you see this trail over here. This clearly is a trail for elephants because we are deep into the forest. And when you take a look at this other side, we've got evidence. Now, that was just a trail. Now, here's the evidence. This is what we call elephant dung. It tells you that an elephant was over here, it pooped, and then it went along its journey in search of food or in search of what, I don't know what that is. And I remember once upon a time I told you how to go about identifying if the elephants are really within the vicinity or they have left. I've been brought up in this area, so yes, I know so much about elephants. This is what you do. You find dung. The first thing you do is get to gauge if the dung is hot. So you place your hand cautiously under the dung. If it's hot, or it's warm, you know that the elephants are just within the vicinity, maybe somewhere just scouting us and looking out for us. But if it's cold, then you know the elephants are long gone. Another caution I'll give you, as you put your hand under, be cautious. And that's because elephants feed on thorns. If they feed on thorns and you're just quick to just put it in, then you'll get hurt by the thorns, and they're pretty dangerous. Let's be honest about that. Another thing, the trees, all right? This is Mount Kenya forest, and it's known for leopards. And let me tell you something very interesting about leopards. They know how to camouflage. They really know how to blend in with the environment, and they can just pounce on you when you least expect it. And because I'm in their habitat, I cannot come around carrying a weapon. After all, I'm the one who's now coming, I'm forcing entry where I'm not wanted. So I'll have to be really keen. I have to be cautious and ensure that I'm always on the lookout. So here's the trail. As you can see, it's still holding a lot of water and there's a lot of silt. But by the mere fact that it has not been raining for quite some time, I want to believe it's a trail that can actually be conquered. But anyway, we are yet to see that. Now, if I conquer this one, come and let's see the next part of the journey. And now, let me show you something. I'm going to use this thing over here, and we get to gauge the depth of the silt. Take a look. It's actually plunged inside. So, they do like that. When the tire gets stuck over there, you have no traction, and there's the computer that's deciding which wheel gets the traction. Oh my good Lord, you are totally screwed. Now, over here, it's even worse. You can see that it is piles and piles of mud. Piles and piles of mud. You get here, without a recovery vehicle, your goose is cooked. So I don't think this is a challenge I would be really challenged on it. But if I had a Land Cruiser or a car that I know can easily handle this, then why not? I mean, it's always good to try out new challenges. You know, the good thing about having a manual car is that it gives you the freedom as a driver to change the gears and to determine which gears suit you best. When it comes to an automatic vehicle, it really limits you a lot. And you try over-exerting too much pressure on it, then eventually a lot of system will failing. You'll have issues with the engine, you'll have issues with the gearbox. And eventually it will end up being a very expensive affair when it comes to fixing that vehicle. Anyway, let's go and see how well we can conquer this one. In case we don't manage this one, there's always a next time. Or what do we say? Let's go do this. The whole idea of replacing lockers with multi-terrain select system has proved not to be the best. And that's because, in a way or the other, it's more reactive than proactive. Why is that so? That's because the tires must spin for the ECU to realize there's an overspinning tire and command the multi-select system to apply selective braking for good distribution of traction. In the process, momentum is lost. Now let me show you something very interesting. Let's get a little bit closer to the vehicle and you will realize that this car is in a ditch. Now under the vehicle, you realize that that tire is straight in a ditch. Now when you look at this other tire, it's actually hanging up. You can actually see the skid marks, and that tells you that this tire was spinning but was not getting quite the right traction. Now let's proceed to the other side of the vehicle, and you will realize that the rear tire on this side is firmly on the ground. And now onto the front one, this tire too is also firmly on the ground. So it means that these tires have traction, but not the one on the other side doesn't have traction. And as it goes, that power escapes through the wheel with the least traction. If this car was equipped with a diff lock, all we had to do was engage the diff lock, and then all the four tires would get equal power, ensuring that this car will it will be like more of a walk in the park, to just maneuver the ditch and go to the other side. Now, this car doesn't come with a diff lock, but it comes with what we call traction management control. Now, what is traction management control? This is whereby the ECU of the vehicle is able to note on the tire that is overspinning. If the tire is overspinning, it's able to brake it so that it can ensure that the right traction is being provided to the right wheels, and ensure that the other tires that are firmly on the ground get the right traction so that the car can get unstuck. We can never talk about off-road abilities of a vehicle without talking about the suspension. Now, as for the Land Rover, it rides on what we call an air suspension, which by the way is a complex system. What you have over here is known as an air bellow. It gives this car the ability to either raise the height or lower the height. I'll tell you, Very comfortable, very stylish. Comes in handy when you're driving on road because it gives you that comfortable and smooth ride. However, when you take it off-road, what happens is that a system, or rather a suspension system malfunction light appears on the dashboard. And once it's faulty, let me tell you, it's an expensive affair to fix. But nevertheless, there is always a good side and a bad side. Let me show you something. Now, when you take a look at this side of the vehicle, it's literally lying on the ground, all right? And now this tells you that you're stuck because when you try to move the car forward, it will now be held by this part. But now the advantage of having an air suspension is that you can raise the height of the car with just a simple switch of the button. Let's do this. All right, over here, we've got this system that enables you to raise the suspension. There's the up button, there's the down button. Let's press the up button. Now, you realize that at least the car has risen up, giving us some little space that has now ensured that the tires are firmly planted on the ground. And let me tell you, this little space is all we need to ensure that we get out of this ditch. So yeah, let's get this done. I would have wanted to push this Land Rover further. I wanted to push it to the limit, but it could only do so much. And it's in this jungle that I remember the old saying, if you want to go into the bush, take a Land Rover. But if you want to go into the bush and come back out again, take a Land Cruiser. There's one similarity between this pool behind me and that Land Rover over there, which is that. Come, let me show you. When you take a closer look at this pool, depending with your judgments, it's either half full or half empty. The same thing applies to the Land Rover. When we talk about its off-road capabilities, its off-road abilities, this car is at half empty. Now, even the sad part is this, at least there is much more hope for this pool because as long as that water keeps trickling in, eventually it will be full. But as for the Land Rover, it's actually stuck at half empty. There's one thing that you'll never get from a Land Rover Discovery, and that is good off-road abilities. Let me tell you the truth, it's really pathetic. It gets stuck in very, very petty situations. But then let's look at the positive side. What does this car have to offer compared to its counterparts? Number one, it gives you personality. This is a car that when you show up in a meeting, when you show up when you're striking a deal, it gives you the recognition that comes in handy and makes you be like, yes, this is the right person for this. More to that, it's really comfortable, it's really spacious when compared to the likes of the TX. More to that, this car is very stable. It doesn't easily roll over like the TX. That one I can assure you of that. And the reason as to why it doesn't roll over is because of the suspension of this vehicle. But now, if you're going to buy a Land Rover Discovery 4, what are the things you need to check out for? Understand one thing, I'm not a car reviewer. I'm an automotive technician who's majored on car inspections. So if you're planning on going for this vehicle, what are the red flags or what are the things you need to know before going for it? Number one, this car is prone to turbo issues, turbo leaks. When it starts developing turbo leaks, power performance is compromised upon, and believe me, it will not perform as it should. So if you're buying one, ensure that you've thoroughly checked into the turbo, ensuring that it's okay. Number two, overheating issues. Overheating issues all result from a faulty cooling system. So before you buy this vehicle, ensure that the cooling system is working as it should and there are no leaks whatsoever. Number three is what we call the injector nozzles. Let me tell you one thing, those things are expensive to replace. So if there are any issues with the injector nozzles, maybe they are clogged up, maybe they are leaking, my good friend, Land Rover Discovery will become problematic for you. So if you're buying such a vehicle, ensure that you have a technician or you have a trusted garage that is very much familiar and conversant with the technology in the Discovery. That's the only time I'll assure you that you'll have a smooth life with a Land Rover Discovery. Owing to the fact that this this car rides on air suspension. That's what gives it the power to self-adjust its height. But let me tell you, that system is very delicate. It has a good side and a bad side, in that it's used as a marketing strategy in the fact that this car can raise itself when you're driving on off-road terrain. But here's the catch. When you subject this car to excessive terrain, it results into what are called suspension system malfunction. Check light on the dashboard. Why is that so? So many computers have been involved, hence a lot of errors will be triggered on that. Now that's not all. Let's look at the tires. When you're driving in off-road situations, you get like punctures like 1,001 times. Let's agree on that, because maybe you're driving on jagged edges, rugged edges, thorns and everything. If you get a tire puncture on this car, do you know that you cannot change that tire until you've done something we call a suspension lock? You need to lock the air bellow. Those are things you don't have the luxury of doing when you're off-road. I mean, you have a tire puncture. You can imagine having now to doing calibration, doing locking. I mean, that's really inconveniencing. So that's one thing that discredits this Land Rover as an off-road terrain. But let's talk about air suspension. Is it something that we can live with? Absolutely yes. But understand one thing, not for off-road terrain. On-road, it will do awesomely. When you're driving on the highways, it's awesome. But when it comes to off-road terrain, I mean, that's where we cut it out. We cannot do that. There are quite a number of issues that we've discussed concerning the Land Rover Discovery that you need to check out for. And let me just list them out for you. Number one is the turbo. I've already talked about the leaks. Number two is the cooling system. When you experience overheating, then the performance of that car has been compromised upon. I also mentioned about the injector nozzles. You really don't want to have an issue with the fuel injection system. And now number four, we've talked about the air suspension. Now, let me add another one onto that list. The transmission of this vehicle. When you talk about the transmission of this vehicle, it's not necessarily the gearbox, but what we call the multi-terrain select. This is whereby in every situation, you turn this knob over here. It has quite a number, maybe gravel, grass, mud, snow, and the likes. You set the ECU of the vehicle to determine and decide which wheel gets the most traction, which axle gets the most power. So you as a driver, you don't have the freedom, you don't have the right to select. The computer of the car does everything for you. And let me tell you something, this system easily fails. And when it fails, it's an expensive affair to fix. More to that, when you're going for off-road situations, there comes a time when you need to seriously accelerate, like give hard revs because you're trying to get unstuck. Now, the gearbox is not designed to handle all that excess pressure. Alright, this is not a car that deals with stress and pressure. This is a car that deals with professionalism. Let me tell you, truth to be said. So if you're buying this vehicle, understand one thing. You only need it for daily use within town, or maybe once in a while when you want to travel home to the bundos. Or rather, you're just going up country in simpler terms. This is the car for you. But if you want to do serious terrain, serious off-roading, this is not the car to go for. Because eventually, when you strain the gearbox, it's going to come up as a very expensive affair to fix. So, when you're talking about a Land Rover Discovery 4, I'll not go into the extremities of the comfortability. It's a 7-seater, by the way, a very nice family vehicle. If I were a reviewer, maybe I would have shown you how spacious it is and everything. But then, as I've said, I'm a technician, not a reviewer. I'll not tell you about the extra amenities it comes with, but I'll tell you about the practicality of this car in terms of daily use versus off-roading. Daily use, you're well sorted. Off-roading, kindly my friend, don't even think about it. Now, let's talk about the cost of owning a Land Rover Discovery. And being that I'm not a reviewer, I will not talk about the initial cost of buying, but rather the maintenance cost of this Discovery. About the few things that I've highlighted on the major issues. What is the price of servicing the engine? What is the cost of servicing the gearbox? What is the cost of replacing the parts that easily get worn out in a Land Rover, or rather easily gets faulty in a Land Rover? The likes of the injector nozzles, the likes of the turbo, the likes of the multi-terrain select, the likes of the transmission and everything. I know all of you want me to break it down in terms of numbers, dissect them, oh, it's 100,000, but honestly, that is not what I'll get into. Because the cost of maintaining a vehicle, even including a Land Rover, heavily depends on the garage you go to. Why do I say that? If you take your car to a garage that get it right on diagnosis, the first step, they're easily able to diagnose the problem, then maintenance is relatively cheap and very fair to you as the owner of that vehicle. What do I mean by that? Take for instance, you have an issue with the injector nozzles. The problem is that the nozzles are clogged up. So all you need to do is unclog them, feed them back in, and the system works function just as it should. You go to a mechanic or a garage who doesn't understand all these things, they'll tell you that you will have to end up replacing the entire fuel injection system. a very expensive affair. Talk about the turbos. The issue is with the seals, they are worn out, they are leaking. All you need to do, replace the seals. But if you go to a garage that is not very much conversant, they'll tell you, we need to replace the entire turbo. Eventually, it becomes a very expensive affair. But if you get it right on the word go as to not what the problem is, but what is the source of the problem, the why question is very much important. Yes, we have this problem, but what has triggered the problem in the first place? You get it right on the why question, you're good to go. And I'm sharing this from experience. I've been a mechanic at Precision Automotive, and we've dealt with numerous car issues related to the Land Rover Discovery. Diagnosis is everything. We get it right, the maintenance of the Land Rover is what we call enjoyable, and even the longevity of that car, it will take you long. So when it comes to going for these cars, ensure that diagnosis is key. Get it right in the word go, and you will be able to have a longer lifespan. Something else, when you take the car to a mechanic, is the mechanic able to detect if this component is faulty due to age and hence resulting from normal wear and tear, or is it what we call accelerated wear and tear? What's accelerated wear and tear? It's when an external factor has now come in, resulting to what we call premature wear and tear. I usually advocate for entire replacement of components, but that usually happens if that has resulted from the normal aging wear and tear. But if it's premature wear and tear, you only replace the components that are faulty. Why do you say to buy a Land Rover Discovery4 or not? Let me just highlight on one very major contributing factor. The lifespan of a vehicle heavily depends on the garage you entrust it to in terms of maintenance. You know, I hear people say, oh, I'm willing to spend over 100,000 on my vehicle in a month. I don't care about splashing money up and about. But then the main question is, where are you spending that money? You may end up spending a lot of money, but then you are spending it in a garage, or rather in technicians who are not very much conversant with your vehicle. So eventually, you're just throwing money about. But when it comes to going to a garage that knows exactly what they're doing with the car, now that's what I'll call a huge jackpot. Take for instance this vehicle, this Land Rover Discovery. It's maintained by Precision Automotive, and let me tell you, I've really subjected it to a beating. Off-road, I've really pushed its limits, and not even once has this car shown me a check engine light. Alright, the only issue I've experienced is what I would call minor warning lights on the suspension. Bearing in mind that it rides on air suspension, when you subject it to some serious terrain, it's meant to warn you. The system needs to alert you that wherever you're going, you're putting some strain, and this is not what it's meant to do. So yeah, just warning lights. Once I switch off the vehicle, the warning lights disappear, and that all narrows down to maintenance. Now, another time I had a BMW that has been tuned and also maintained by Precision, and I subjected that BMW. I'm telling you, I even went to the mountains with it, and not even once did that car smoke. Not even once did that car pop up a check engine light. And we all know BMWs and unreliability. All narrows down to the maintenance. Now, when you talk about Precision Automotive, it's a garage that I would tell you that it speaks volumes for itself. If maybe you've got any car issues, you can always reach out to Precision Automotive. Actually, they've got 2 branches, one in Kilimani and another one in Karen. And you can always contact them on 0708 455 455.